What up, my dude? Spency boy definitely on that tee this morning. You already know what it is. Let's talk about this rain mode on MX bikes. So I'm starting to get this idea, after playing all these different motocross games and getting into all these different rain modes and the milestone games and shit like that. I really do believe that MX Bikes has the best rain mode at this point, quote unquote. I think the rain mode works a lot better on MX Bikes when you turn it on a already pre-made muddy, style track. You understand what I'm saying? I think that definitely makes the track a lot better in that sense, because if you see on this track right here, there's quite a few areas where there's water, little wet water ponds, especially with the terrain deformation. It'll actually dig the dirt down into those particular little water wet sections on the track, and it'll actually show those water sections even more the more that you get that terrain deformation. But I want to make it very clear that that's not actually the rain mode doing that. That's the pre-made already, water pond statues or whatever they use on MX bikes, right? So it's kind of a combination of that pre-made wet, muddy, rainy track design in combination with turning on the rain mode, the actual rain mode weather effect in the game. And when you combine those two things together, it gives you a whole vibe on MX bikes, dude. And probably the most realistic thunder crackling and snapping in the background that I've ever heard in any video game ever. I mean, oh my gosh. When I uploaded a video of me just ripping some laps on this track, and when I went back and listened to it, dude, that sound of the thunder cracking in the background is so fucking realistic on MX bikes. Like it will literally make you feel like you're riding a dirt bike outside, and when you hear that thunder really snap and crack and in real life, like sends chills up your spine, you know what I mean? That kind of feeling where it's like, goddamn, we got to get in the house, Jimmy. Tornadoes coming through, right? It gives you that kind of vibe on MX bikes, you know what I mean, with the thunder sound. So that definitely adds into everything. But I think all that the weather mode technically does on MX bikes is it sort of makes the skybox kind of get more of this cloudy looking vibe to it, right? I think it may actually change the lighting a little bit on the track, makes it a little bit darker. At least that's just from what I've kind of noticed. And obviously it makes what the dirt and the water, accumulate up on the screen itself a lot more than you would have, standardly in the game. The dirt will accumulate even when you don't have the rain mode on, but it actually has little water droplets. And if you don't pull a tear off when you got the rain mode turned on for like 20, 30 laps, it's pretty legit, bro. trying to see what the hell you're doing, They've definitely got that pretty cool in the game where it really... And you can run out of tear-offs in this game. So if you get in a really long moto racing situation, it actually adds that cool real-life element of, I think we've all been there in real life where we've ran completely out of tear-offs on a fucking mudder, and it's like trying to look through a damn stained, shitty kaleidoscope or something. I don't even know the way to explain that, but you can barely see what you're doing, And MX Bikes rain mode can definitely give you those kind of vibes when you don't pull a tear off. So that's a cool thing. But if you haven't noticed, technically there's no rain falling when you turn the rain mode on, which is a little bizarre. Hopefully Paboso updates that at some point where they'll actually add a rain falling sequence effect where you can look off in the distance and actually see the rain falling itself like you have on a bunch of MX Simulator mud tracks. Okay, so this really cool, super realistic thunder sound apparently is only on this track right here. It's exclusive to this JV MX Nations track, so that had to be something that JV added to the custom track itself before you ever even implemented the rainy weather effect or anything like that. Listen, Paboso, you need to take the exact thunder sound effect that JV put on this track right here, and you need to just integrate that into your rainy weather mode of your game. So no matter when somebody turns on that rainy weather mode on any other track in the game, it'll have that same thunder sound effect to it, not just only on this track right here. Do you understand what I'm saying? So that's one of the biggest things I'm trying to convey in this video, is what makes this particular instance of the rainy mode so cool right here. It's not just because of the rainy mode itself on MX bikes, it's that combination of a track maker like JV going in here and making a really awesome pre-made mud track with water pond sections, thunder sound effects, you know, all this kind of cool shit. And then you turn on that rainy MX bikes weather mode on top of that, right? So then now you've got all that pre-made mud, you know, traction, water ponds, terrain deformation into the water ponds, thunder sound effects, all this extra shit, you know. Then you turn on that rainy weather mode on, and then you get that water droplet, you know, little mud flicking up on the screen, you know, accumulating up on the screen. You get all that in combination together, and that's what gives you what I feel like is the best rainy mud weather effect in any dirt bike game out there, period. You got to have two of those things combined. You know, it's not just the rainy weather mode of MX bikes that is creating all of this. You know, the MX bikes rainy weather mode does not create water ponds on the track. It does not have a thunder sound effect. You know, it doesn't do all of that. And I think Paboso really needs to update their rainy weather mode, because as of right now, it's really just, it's turning into basically a add-on to what these custom track makers are doing pre-made wise with the tracks, instead of just having it all be done with the rainy weather mode how it should be. You understand what I'm saying? So Paboso really needs to put some work into that to get it to that kind of level. And if they'll work with guys like JV putting in these cool, really super realistic thunder sound effects, and, you know, figure out a way to maybe somehow make those water ponds on the track over time with the rainy mode turned on, instead of having to go in there and literally put those water ponds down on the pre-made version of the track, then we would really be getting somewhere, right? You know, but on MX Simulator, like I was saying, the track maker themselves have to go in there and put in that rain sequence file, just like you can go in there and make a snow track on MX Simulator where the snow is actually falling in the distance, right? You can do a lot of different shit like that on MX Sim, and you know, you can do things like that with MX Bikes custom track making too, but that's kind of your difference between making like a pre-made sort of weather effect on a track, as you would call it, and having actual weather modes in the game. That's two completely different animals, you know? And I'm curious to see how Paboso develops this in the future, and if they ever try to make like a snow weather effect where the snow itself can kind of accumulate up on the screen. And, I don't know, you get like this cool little frozen looking, little icy frozen vibe to the screen itself. Like your goggles are get a little icy. That'd be kind of cool. That'd be a cool weather effect, but that's little things that you can't really do with just making like a pre-made. Like, for instance, on MX Simulator, if you go in there and make like a pre-made rain track or mud track or whatever, you can add rain sequence files, you can make the dirt slicker, you can add little water pond areas on the track, you can make the dirt look like mud, you can make the dirt feel like mud, you can make, the lightning flashing in the background and all that. You can do a lot of stuff, but you can't really do anything to make like that water accumulate on the screen, and you know the vibes that you get with MX Bikes' actual rain mode. So I feel like there's positives and negatives to both, but it's interesting when you get on MX Bikes directly and you get on a pre-made mud like on this JV MX Nations track here. If you get on here with the rain mode turned off, you know, you get on where the weather is just clear, it'll still have these water ponds. You know what I mean? It'll still have the muddy, deep muddy water ponds in the areas of the track. It'll still have all those kind of vibes. I think the skybox will lighten up a little bit compared to the way it is right here, but you know, you won't have the actual rain droplets accumulating on the screen. You won't have quite as much of mud and all that flicking up on the screen as you would by having the rain mode actually turned on. So I hope I've conveyed that to you properly. We have a combination of a pre-made mud water ponds on the track, design style track, in combination with that rain mode weather effect turned on in the game. You kind of have to do both of those things together to get this full effect, but even if you do all of that, you're still not going to actually see any rain falling on the track, and that's a really big thing they need to put into this game in some kind of fashion, because of course it'll give you the illusion like rain is falling in the background because you get all those little water droplets on the screen and it makes you think that there's rain falling in the background, but there's not literally rain falling in the background. Do you understand what I'm saying? So, and there's not technically lightning in the background. It's just a thunder sound effect, right? And granted, it's a fucking awesome thunder sound effect, and it's, you know, I mean, I'm telling you, the most realistic thunder sound effect I've ever heard in any video game ever. And it's got 4 or 5 different variations to it, and depending on where you're at on the track, sometimes it'll sound a little more distant, sometimes it sounds a little closer, sometimes it sounds like it's like off to the left or the right of you. I don't really know how to explain. However they did that, it's fucking sick though, bro. Yeah, I mean, there's just no replacement for, you know, the mud and the water droplets popping up on the screen itself. That puts you so much into the immersion of the mud effect itself. Like on MX Simulator, you know, they desperately need to have something like that to give you more of that mud feeling, you know, because on MX Sim, you can make the most muddy track, rain sequence, fucking lightning sequence, you know, water ponds everywhere, but yet the actual screen itself is going to stay perfectly clear. You know, your vision is going to stay perfectly clear, so it only captures a certain amount of the mud riding vibe. You know what I mean? So, but it's interesting to see how, like, if Poboso is going to make more weather modes in the game, and if they're going to try to make like a, you know, rainy and then have a separate mode that's like rainy with lightning. Are they going to try to go in there and make every kind of like weather effect in the game, like a snow mode, a dry mode where it's more dust coming off the back of the bike, and the traction gets like more blue grooved if you pick like a dry weather mode? That would be kind of sick. You know, and your screen, about said goggles, but I meant your screen gets more of that dust kind of accumulating on the screen instead of like mud and water droplets. That would be pretty fucking sick if MX Bikes got to that kind of point where it had like a snow weather mode and a dry dusty weather mode and shit like that. That would be pretty sick, dude. But nonetheless, yeah, I think a lot of people get a little confused with this because they don't understand like the difference in pre-made wet mud track and like a weather mode that makes a wet mud track. Those are two completely different things, you know what I mean? But you can still, you know, I feel like a lot of people would get that idea, well, you know, MX Simulator doesn't even have a rain mode to it, so it doesn't have rain tracks or it doesn't have mud tracks. And that's just simply not true. You can have a fucking complete muddy, slick, rain falling, lightning in the background, water ponds on the track. You can have all of that on MX Simulator, but it's all done pre-made wise. Do you understand what I'm saying? So that's what makes the difference, right? Whereas like with MX bikes, you can combine that pre-made mud, wet track shit with that rain weather mode, and that really, I feel like when you combine those two things together, that's what personally I feel like gives you the best rain mud experience in a dirt bike game right now, currently, for sure. So either way, man, appreciate you guys watching all the videos. Later, dudes.